Welcome to SVG-TV News for Wednesday, September 20th, 2017. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has not only been talking the talk in relation to renewable energy, but also walking the walk. That's according to Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves as he spoke at the opening of a two-day regional workshop being held here at the National Insurance Services Conference Room. The workshop, which is looking at energy matters, brings together sustainable energy project developers, financiers, government representatives, and other key players in the energy and finance sectors from across the region. PM Gonsalves stated that the science is clear on the issue of climate change, pointing to mass consumption of fossil fuels being a significant factor. Dr. Gonsalves further pointed out that St. Vincent and the Grenadines has become an example to the global community as a country implementing renewable energy initiatives, and that larger nations need to follow SVG's example.
And we in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we are determined as a matter of public policy to walk the talk. Even though we contribute very little. If St. Vincent and the Grenadines just continues to consume carbon-based energy, it's not going to make an impact. But if we are asking other people, more powerful countries, the main emitters in the world, to rearrange their energy sector, we have to do what we can do. And that's why, and it makes economic sense too. Makes for healthier living for us.
Also making remarks at the workshop's opening ceremony was Stephen O'Malley, a resident representative of the United Nations Development Programme, the UNDP, who stated that countries like St. Vincent and the Grenadines are vulnerable to the volatility of fuel prices, which has an impact on their economy, and considered renewable energy as an important factor to these countries' development. O'Malley, however, noted that there are some challenges in implementing renewable energy projects and considered the workshop as vital.
So capacity building workshops like this are vital forums for knowledge sharing. It is imperative that project developers, bankers, utilities, policymakers understand not only the technical but also the financial components related to renewable energy and energy efficiency projects in their portfolio. And this will surely aid in the development of bankable projects and stimulate, we hope, the banking sector and the financing sector to broaden its range of financing options for sustainable energy investments. It is very good for us to be able to be here today. I appreciate everyone who has journeyed from far to be here, but the real proof of the utility of this workshop will be the projects that we see 6 months and a year from now.
Energy Finance Advisor of Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Technical Assistance, the RETA, Simeon Zellner, stated that the current hurricane season is evidence of climate change and called on participants to pay utmost attention to the information provided as well as seek assistance where necessary.
Project development and financing of sustainable energy projects will remain on a high priority under the cooperation between CARICOM and Germany. I've seen many soundly planned projects, however, it's still difficult to get them implemented and to find some funding for it. We have a very good experience with this kind of training. I'd like to encourage you all to actively participate and ask your questions, also when the training is over afterwards. The main point I'd like to make is that we are where we are and we will be here in the region through our collaboration with CARICOM. So this means please use our support initiatives we are providing here for the Caribbean. Also, if you have further questions and further points to discuss, not only within this trainings, also in other areas. So I wish us all a successful workshop, interesting discussions, and a good time here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Thank you.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as well as other countries of the Caribbean community, CARICOM, has come in for high praise in their efforts to aid in its CARICOM neighbors, which have been devastated by hurricanes Irma and Maria. The commendation comes from resident representative of the United Nations Development Program, the UNDP, Stephen O'Malley, as he spoke at the opening of a two-day workshop here looking at the issue of financing sustainable energy applications. O'Malley stated that he is heartened by the quick response by St. Vincent and the Grenadines and other CARICOM countries to aid their hurricane-ravaged neighbors.
I do want to begin by taking note of the destruction brought to the region by Hurricane Irma and by Hurricane Maria, and also by mourning those who have lost their lives. I'm sure many of the people in this room, in one way or the other, have been involved in efforts to assist the other islands. Certainly, I know any of the Carolec colleagues have been very closely involved in that. Efforts to assist Vincentians who've been displaced, as well as others who've been displaced from the worst affected islands. I want to express a particular note of appreciation for the strong leadership that has been shown by CARICOM and by the OECS in the response, and I want to particularly recognize the efforts of Prime Minister Gonzalez. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for all the things you've been doing also behind the scenes to make different things happen in support of the other affected islands.
Praising Vincentians for their charitable spirit in times of need was Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, who said he was amazed by the generosity of the poor and compared their spirit to the rhetoric emanating from the UN General Assembly.
People send bags of coals because they don't have electricity. Ordinary man in the countryside says, well, I must send coals for people in Tortola. Elderly folk rummage through their storeroom and found old coal pots, put them in a box to send them. I want to give that as a contrast to what we have been hearing from some people at the United Nations. None of these folks is a billionaire. None of them. And of course, I'm not speaking about anybody particularly who might have spoken recently.
Giving an update on the barge, which was forced to return to SVG due to the weather condition. PM Gonzalez expressed hope that it will be able to return on its journey to the BVI as quickly as possible.
But when it realized the force of the wind, it had to come back south to St. Vincent. Sometime later today, I'm hoping it can leave. We'll have to take off some of the stuff, like some bread. It would have taken 48 hours, so the very morning we bake bread and put bread on it too, you know, the very morning, just before it left. That's the last thing that went on. Of course, that bread will now be stale. We'll have to throw it away. We'll have to get some fresh one when it leaves sometime this evening, and we are trying to get a vessel to do similar things going to Dominica, because it is our duty to help.
And Minister of Economic Planning, Camilo Gonzalez, has expressed concern that many Vincentians living and working in the British and U.S. Virgin Islands have become unemployed due to the destruction caused by Hurricane Irma and now Maria. Minister Gonzalez, who was speaking at a recent media conference, thanked everyone for their generosity and acknowledged that the assistance given to those in need will not be one-off.
Right now, Vincentians in the BVI don't know when their job is resuming. The ones who are working in the construction sector, of course, will find opportunity in disaster. But the ones who are working in financial services, in trust companies, many of those businesses may relocate to the Cayman Islands, to the Bahamas and elsewhere, and create some uncertainty. Those in the tourist sector, the yachting sector, which is a huge part of BVI tourism, has been seriously affected, and those Vincentians that work in that sector may have to wait a while before they are gainfully employed. Those in the hotels and the villas, the chefs, all of those areas, we have Vincentians working who have do not yet have a signal from their employers as to when they will resume work. And we have to be cognizant of the fact that our assistance to them, family-to-family assistance and also state-to-state assistance, will extend beyond one barge.
Meanwhile, opposition leader Dr. Godwin Friday said every effort must be made to assist persons in these hurricane-ravaged islands who wish to return home.
I hope that the government will look into this very seriously. Not everybody wants to come, but those who want to, we should facilitate it. I know other countries have. Jamaica has announced that it will be helping its citizens to return home until they can reestablish their communities in wherever they were that were hurricane affected. And it is something that we all have to pitch in and do what we can to assist. For those people, those of our Vincentians who are living up there, in Tortola in particular, who want to come home, they also have, it's not a matter of just picking up a suitcase and coming, you know. They also have, their houses have been damaged, things need to be secured, certain things that they need to travel with, to bring with them to secure certain precious possessions and so on. So it is really essential that we do what we can, that the government seek ways and saying, okay, let's determine how many people there are who wish to come now and to facilitate them coming.
And the government has been coordinating efforts to have damaged passports of Vincentians working in the Virgin Islands renewed. In other news, keeping in mind his obligation to ensure a proper and well-thought-out transition to leadership in the political sphere as well as within the state's administration, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonzalez said such a transition is also needed in the public service here. While speaking at the swearing-in ceremony of SVG's new Attorney General John D. Martin on Monday PM, Gonzalez said Martin's appointment is testimony to the government's aim.
It was easy to have asked Judith Jones-Morgan to stay on. That would have been the easier route. But I want to see a new generation emerge. And I want to say this, that the process has started in the state administration. There are several positions, permanent secretaries, for instance, which have been filled. We have immediately about a dozen senior positions, and over the next 12 months, another dozen or so, and then in the public, then in the state enterprises, similarly. In this case, the Chief Justice was required by the Constitution to consult with me. There are some positions which consultations is required, some other positions. There are others which require advice by me to the Governor General, and others still which require from me as Prime Minister a no objection.
Further reiterating the importance of a smooth transition, the Prime Minister called on the new generation to step up to the plate, urging them to not ignore the advice and contribution of their elders.
You would hear the names. For instance, you would have heard there's a younger permanent secretary in the Ministry of Social Development. There's in the Ministry of there's in the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. There are a few which are going to take place. I mean, there's Director General of Finance and Planning, the Budget Director, and so on and so forth. I have them all in my head, and I tell you, I know the numbers, and it has to be done in a manner which is worthy of this country.
Outlining that there are political and non-political appointed attorney generals, Queen's Counsel Panel Campbell is of the view that a newly appointed Attorney General, John D. Martin, will be level-headed and balanced in his duties. Campbell, who is a former Attorney General, gave high praises to Martin on his Law and You television program on SVG-TV on Monday night.
In my respectful opinion, his appointment was well merited. John D. hails from the Mariacor Valley, the Valley man, and power to you in the Valley. But John D. is a thorough, serious, dedicated lawyer who approaches his work with meticulous care. He is level-headed, measured, extremely polite, soft-spoken, and he will bring to bear on the decision-making in the Office of Attorney General a balanced maturity on matters on which he will have to advise the government.
Giving advice to the new Attorney General, the Queen's Counsel says he has no doubt that he will feel some sort of pressure when some of the decisions will not be favorable, but encouraged the attorney of 19 years to rely on his virtues to never compromise.
Mr. Martin will find that there are times when he has to give the government advice the government would not like. He will have to dissuade the government from doing things which the government would want to do on ground that they might violate the constitutional rights of individuals. I am satisfied, knowing the man John D. Martin as I have done over these past few years in practice. I am satisfied that John D. will give thoughtful advice to the government, but he would never compromise on his basic principles.
Primary level students are set to benefit from an early learners program, the ELP, as this nation is among 6 OECS member states in which the new innovative program will be administered. Funded by the OECS Commission and the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, the ELP is aimed at significantly improving the reading ability of students from kindergarten to grade 3 and will also improve the professional development qualities of teachers at these lower classes to further enhance the quality of teaching through learner-centered approaches. Participating schools will also be equipped with the requisite resources to increase the number of students reading at or above their class level. The main idea is that if students are able to read at or above their primary grade level, they will be better prepared to successfully negotiate education programs at the higher primary and secondary levels. The ELP is expected to ultimately help to advance the socio-economic development of the selected member states. According to OECS Director General Didicus Jules, the EPL initiative will not only uphold the quality of education as a fundamental human right, but it is also a critical investment in improving economic and social fabric of the OECS. The other 5 OECS members to benefit from the program are Antigua, Dominica, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Lucia. 4 Vincentians will participate in the 2017 Youth Climate Change Conference co-hosted by the United Nations Development Program, the UNDP, Japan Caribbean Climate Change Partnership, and the USAID-funded Jamaican Rural Economy and Ecosystems Adapting to Climate Change project. Youth participants were selected after submissions were made to a local review panel with winners ranging in age from 14 to 29 years. All passionate about the environment and environmental sustainability. The participants selected for St. Vincent and the Grenadines are Diona Nero, Esther Douglas, Katie Scott, and Shanika John. Stephen O'Malley, UNDP's resident representative, expressed his delight at the ongoing collaboration to facilitate climate change discussion and advocacy. The participants from St. Vincent and the Grenadines will join with 600 other youth representatives, including those from Belize, Grenada, Guyana, St. Lucia, Dominica, Suriname, and host country Jamaica. The conference seeks to increase climate change knowledge among youth, as well as supporting the enabling and development of advocacy skills and knowledge transfer.